Everybody. Today I want to talk about the difficulties of leaving and why, despite how difficult it is still worth it. So, some people like to say, oh, look how difficult it is when you leave. The struggle is so big. Is it even worth it? So here's what I compare it to. Imagine a person that was imprisoned for many years, whether it's 1 year or 20 years. But of course, the longer they've been imprisoned, the more when they're done with their sentence and they're free to go, they might be disoriented, they might be confused as to what to do with their newfound freedom. Of course, they might be lacking direction. It's only normal because they were limited to the confines for so long. But does this mean that they want to return to prison? Tell me one person who would want that, especially when being imprisoned wasn't their choice. It's still, of course you're happy to be out of there. Of course you want to stay free. You don't want to go back just because it's difficult to suddenly adjust to your new life. People that leave a cult or an extreme religion or restricted lifestyle are very similar to prisoners. They are incarcerated in a bubble, and often when they leave, they will display all the symptoms of someone who has been imprisoned for years. They might exhibit PTSD symptoms, they might exhibit confusion, they might exhibit a lack of direction. And it is actually very important to try not to let all of this newfound freedom lead you to get into trouble to go back to prison. That is definitely something to keep in mind, and while it's just analogous, I'm not here to say that people who leave the community end up in prison. Some people may have issues with getting entangled in self-destructive behavior simply because, they are lacking direction or because this is their way of processing things. So while it is important to try to stay healthy, the bottom line is that it is still worth it to leave no matter what, no matter how difficult it is, because ultimately freedom is priceless. What wouldn't a person do for freedom? And we all deserve to have freedom. Whenever people ask me how my life is nowadays compared to previous days, and while overall, of course, I would still say that it's much better than it was, ultimately it's not even about how happy you are or how successful you are. It's about having choices, having options, things that I didn't have in my previous life, and most other people that are trapped in a cult or extreme fundamentalist religion are lacking. They're lacking basic human rights, they're lacking the freedom and the choice. And therefore, yes, it is worth it to be frei.